Howdy peeps, and welcome to another podcast of Talking Paranormal with the Old Man. And as usual, I am the old man. I hope this sounds okay. When I started doing this morning, I had a freaking echo, and I don't know why, but the knob, I saw the echo knob on my little soundboard. But I don't know why it was turned on all the way. So it sounded like echo, 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 and I didn't like that crap. So hopefully I got it fixed. Technology, have to love it, or you don't have to. When it works, it works. When it doesn't, it doesn't. And when shit like this happens, and it's like, okay, why did the echo knob go all the way to full when I didn't touch it after last week's episode? I do not know. The only thing I did was added a headphone hook on my desk so I can just hang my headphones when I'm done on this hook. That's the only thing I did. I didn't touch any knobs, anything. So I don't know what happened, but hey, whatever. It is what it is. Hope you're having a good weekend. If you have family or friends in the South, by South I mean like Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, I guess too. I hope they're all doing okay. Weather-wise, they're getting slammed with tornadoes, flooding rains. Up here in Michigan, uh, usual for spring, early spring. 50s and 60s one day, back down to 40s the other day. So it is what it is. We got rain last week. Well, actually, we got rain on Wednesday. We got rain Friday. It rained yesterday morning. It's now okay right now. The sun's out. It's like 45 degrees. So hopefully we're through with the rain for a while. I did put on my sound foam absorbing stuff on the walls. Don't know if it's going to help or not. I can't tell. I don't listen to my podcast when I'm done, but hopefully it will eliminate some of the echoes that we had in here. So hopefully that will fix that. I do have a couple more boards or panels I need to put up. I got one, two, three, four, about four and a half more I'll put up when I'm through with this podcast, and that's basically it. I came with 24. I've used all of them, but one, two, three, about eight of them. So I only got a few left. So it is what it is, as they say. This podcast is going to. I'm not trying to like be a bragging or whatever. But this podcast here is going to be. We took a trip to the UK in 2019. Was it? Yes, it was 2019. We took a trip to UK. It was London, Paris, and Rome. And we did have some experiences. This podcast isn't going to be, oh no, we were here, blah blah. No, we did have experiences in each one of these towns. So, and I'm going to talk about the experiences that we had, paranormal experiences, on this podcast. So, without further ado, I guess let's start. So the first place that we went to was London, one of my favorite places. Our My family came from Eastern Europe ish. Um, More or less, it was more Czechoslovakia, or now Czechia. Now, my grandpa Steve, rest in peace. He always said that we were like Heinz ketchup. That our family had all kinds of stuff in there. We had, we have Polish, we have, Czechia, obviously, Hungarian. I've also Finland. I think Finland's a country over there. We actually went to Paris Island back in 1999. Not Paris Island. What the hell am I talking about? Paris Island is where Marines are made. Well, real Marines are made on San Diego, Hollywood Marines. That's me. I was in the Marines, Hollywood Marine. So, yeah, I don't know why I said Paris Island, but it's early, I guess. We went to Ellis Island. There we go. That sounds a little bit more better. It makes a little bit more sense. And I actually saw where, and I'm getting off track a little bit here, paranormal wise, but we saw my great 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 grandparents, or was it just great great grandparents? Anyways, we saw when they came into Ellis Island, and they had the forum, they had their actual John Hancock on there, and my okay, so this must have been my great grandparents. She was pregnant when she came into Ellis Island with my grandfather Steve, and in order to hide her pregnancy, she wore baggy clothes. And I guess when they asked her if she was, pregnant, whatever, she goes, "No, I'm not." So they were allowed into the actual country. So I have a it's the Macalca coat of arms, and it says that that said we're actually more Polish, and I guess that in Poland, Macalca is like Smith. Now, we were looking to do a tour, which I still want to do. It was a tour of Czechia, Hungary, Auschwitz. Would love to go to Auschwitz, Birkenau, not because of the paranormal part of it, to be honest with you, but more of the history part of it. I mean, that's history, and who doesn't want to learn or see history? And our daughter, when we were thinking about going there, there's actually a pizzeria in Prague, Makalka Pizzeria. And if we do end up going, which hopefully we will, one day here, hopefully, this upcoming year maybe, I'm going into Makalka Pizzeria in Prague and saying, "Hey fam, do we get a free pizza because we're family?" And they'll say, "Who the hell are you?" Whatever. So, anyways, I love London. I love the UK. I love Europe, and that's where I was heading with the whole brief family history there, and that's why I think I'm attracted to Europe is because my family came from there. So we stayed. Just a real thing here is we stayed in a hotel. It was the Grange Clarendon. We went through a go ahead tours, which is they take care of everything for you. They take care of the hotel. They take care of your meals, your sightseeing. They take care of transportation. Of course, it costs extra, but they also will book your flight for you, and everything's taken care of. They pick you up at the airport. They take you back to the airport. They basically, if you're in a country that you've never been to, or they don't speak English, or you don't speak their language, this is a good tour company to go to because they take care of everything for you. So that's what we chose for our first one trip over there, and it was very cool. So we stayed at the Grange Clarendon, and it was uh, I want to say it was built in the early 1900s. I do believe it was, and the whole thing was it is a garden house. I don't know what the hell a garden house was or a garden house is. To me, it looked like because of the actual location of the Grange Clarendon, it was more of a house because the whole block is all houses. So I'm thinking that a garden house was someone's house that they converted into a apartment. I'm sorry, not an apartment, a hotel. So we stayed at the Grange Clarendon, and the rooms were compared to America. The rooms are really small. And our tour guide Nicola, she told us, she goes, before we even went up to our room, she's gonna be like, just so you guys know that was me hitting the actual desk. She said that the hotel room, she goes, her husband is from the East Coast. I think it was Massachusetts, and she said that when we go over to America to visit family, she goes, I can't believe how big the rooms are. She goes, here in the UK, the rooms that we had in Paris and Rome were bigger, obviously. Well, I don't know if you say obviously if you haven't ever seen before, but we had in the Grange Clarendon the rooms were smaller, and she goes, that's just how they are here. She goes, we just like a bed, bed to sleep, a TV. We don't need a lot of room. Well, what happened at the Grange Clarendon? It was our last night at the Grange Clarendon before we went to a train, the high-speed train, the Eurostar, to go to Paris. And our bathroom was from our bed was only, oh God, again, I'm bad with years and distances. But I would have, if I had to guess, it wasn't more than like, oh God, maybe 6 to 10 feet from the end of our bed to the actual bathroom. And the wife was in bed. She was sleeping. I was in bed too, but I was watching TV. And some of these shows in the UK are hilarious. I was watching. It was like it's like maybe like a Family Feud, but only one person at a time, and they had to answer questions. Well, they were able to have someone backstage helping them to answer the question. You know, like one question per category or per show. I don't remember what it was. So I was watching that, and in our bathroom, you know, on the countertop, we had, you know, like our deodorant, my aftershave or cologne, whatever you want to call that. I don't give a crap. Toothpaste, toothbrush, and contact stuff. And Brenda had on her side, it was just one countertop in the actual bathroom, one sink. So on the right hand side of the sink was my crap. On the left hand side of the sink in the actual bathroom countertop there was her stuff, you know, perfume, again, the contact stuff, mouthwash, you know, toothbrush, toothpaste. Well, I'm sitting there, or laying there would be a better way, I guess, and I heard like some like moving around in there. And it wasn't like somebody moving around, like, you know, footsteps or like that. It was more like things just being shuffled in the bathroom. So you know, get up, go in there, turn on the light, and of course there's no, you know, shadow figure or there isn't anything there whatsoever. But I looked down on the counter, and some of the stuff had been like moved on the countertop. So, and I know what you're thinking is like, okay, well, maybe it was you. You didn't. No, we no. The whole time we were there for 3 days, and all 2 days, they stayed on the same side. Well, my one of my colognes was on her side. Her contact stuff was on my side. So can you imagine like her, like me putting her contacts in, like holy shit, I can't see, because her prescription isn't the same as my prescription is for contacts. So yeah, so that was something that happened where, and like I said, I heard the bottles and the stuff on the counter being, you know, being moved, but I didn't think much of it, and until, like I said, I heard it, and I walked in there, and like everything got moved. So, you know, if you're on you know YouTube, you know all the replies, it cracks me up, and I'm gonna go off a little bit here, not off, but like off topic a little bit. It's like everything on these, you know, YouTube channels that I, you know, that me and Brenda watch that cover the paranormal. You know, it's like, oh, he posted it on Reddit to get people's opinions. And almost every freaking opinion is, oh, it's a demon, you need to smudge your house. Oh, it's a demon, get out of there now. It's like, hey, you're talking to Reddit, people that probably don't know what the hell they're even talking about. But they're giving advice, oh, it's demonic, it's a demon, get out now, smudge the house. Whatever, dude. Whatever. So yeah, I wasn't afraid. It was just because this is what we do, you know. So I just walked in there and like, oh, okay, we have a playful spirit, you know. Probably, you know, the following morning when we're getting ready to pack up our stuff, the spirit's in there like, watch this, dude, watch this, watch him put, you know. So it was just a playful spirit. So the other thing, again, not to be scared, not to be frightened of anything like that. We have a saying, you have to be more afraid of the living than you do of the dead. Bingo, thank you very much. So the other experience that we had in London was we went on the Jack the Ripper tour, which we wanted to do. Oh no, I'm sorry. We went back to London a couple years ago and took the Jack the Ripper tour because the first time that we were there, we didn't have time. The first time that we were there, we went to Stonehenge. I recommend it, as I was told by somebody, I won't say who it was, that it was just a pile of rocks, which it is, but it's not. But I do have a quick story about Stonehenge, which I find to be funny as hell. because we took a bus. The tour is called Evan Evans Tours. If you're ever in London or the UK, they have all kinds of tours like Bath, and we say here in Michigan, probably the US, we say Bath, but in the UK they say Bath. So there is a town of Bath, Bath, but it's pronounced Bath. They have tours there. They have tours to the spas in Bath. Well, we took the Evan Evans tour to Stonehenge, and we got off of our tour bus. It's a 2 hour drive to Stonehenge. You're there for 2 hours, and 2 hours drive back to London proper. Well, we basically ran out of time because we were there off season, so everything closed like at 5 or 5:30. So when we went back a couple years ago, it was like, okay, we have to do the Jack the Ripper tour. But the first time at Stonehenge, it was funny because they when we were waiting a train when our tour bus parked in the parking lot, they have a tram that comes and picks you up and takes you to the Stonehenge Visitor Center, and that's where you can get your tickets. Was ours was already prepaid already. I already prepaid all that crap. Then you get on, and then you basically walk out the door, and you can, at your leisure, go to the stones. You can't go in the stones, in between the stones no more because idiots. They did graffiti. They, damaged the stones. So because of these idiots, and what people always ruin it for everybody else. Always one set of people that ruin it for everyone else. So because these idiots, and yes, they're idiots, decided to put Joni loves Chachi, and if you get that joke, cool, on the fucking Stonehenges. And I said the F word. I'm sorry. I'm trying to pick it up, clean up a little bit, but yeah, basically the F word there. Um, Now you can only walk around the perimeter of Stonehenge. But anyways, I'm getting off track. So anyways, so we're waiting there to get the tram to go to the actual visitor center, and we're talking to a employee there, and and he's like, yeah, we have farmers around us, and their sheep will jump the fence and start eating the grass, around Stonehenge. So he goes, when that happens, we get on our two-way radios. I'm doing my best British impersonation. I'm sorry if it's not up to par, but this is my best impersonation. And and he'll go, woolly jumper, we have a woolly jumper here. And then I thought that was pretty damn good for a British accent for a American guy. Anyway, so then he goes, British jumper, yeah, I'm sorry, British jumper, woolly jumper, we have a woolly jumper here. And then employees would go down there and shoo the sheep back across the actual farmer's fence and get them off the property. But I thought that was funny. I still laugh about it. I know I have a sense of humor of a 12-year-old. It is what it is. I don't care. Live with it, or I don't care. I don't care. Oh, I thought that was hilariously funny, and I still think it's hilariously funny. Woolly jumper here. So, anyways, when we were here last time to London, we took the Jack the Ripper tour. That was one of our first things. Okay, we're going to do this. We didn't do it last time. And if you're off familiar with Jack the Ripper, he did his damage in White Castle, which is in East London. Uh, there was a TV show for you people that are about my age, 60s-ish or 50s-ish, called Family Affair. And one of the characters, the not a butler, he was a man's man. He was from London, West London, and one of the characters, her name was Sissy, and she was getting extra credit at school to interview Mr. French, who was a butler, a man's man, whichever you want to call it. And she goes, "So what part of London are you from, Mr. French?" And Mr. French goes, "The West Side, of course." So the West Side looks down on everyone else in London. The East Side, London, North Side, or South Side. The West End is the place to be. So White Castle is on the east part of London. It's East London, and it was sketchy as hell back then. If you've ever heard about Jack the Ripper, or seen any shows about Jack the Ripper, it was full of prostitutes and people that were poor and all that kind of stuff. So we met in Whitechapel for the tour, and we had a person. We had, well, I guess our tour guide, and we had about, I'll say a handful of people on this tour. With us, we had six people. Let's see, sorry, one, two, three. Yeah, we had six people just in our group that went on this Jack the Ripper tour. So we had, I'd say about maybe 15 people tops maybe. And of course we had a couple of, late bloomers who came late, so we had to, wait for them. And it wasn't raining, but it was drizzly, right before the actual tour started. And what she did basically is she had a Apple iPad, and she would take us around, give us a history of each, area, and then we would stop where approximately, because some of the buildings are not there no more, and some of them, have been torn down, and new buildings there, whatever. And she would, stop where each victim was found, told us a bit about the actual victim, how she was found, blah blah blah. And I will say this right now: White Castle today is as sketchy as hell as it was back then. I would not want to live in Whitechapel. I'm sorry, Whitechapel people, if you do, I would not want to live in Whitechapel today. It was dirty. It was, as our tour guide Nicola said when we came into Paris, deplorables, you know. And I'm not trying to put anybody down, but oh my God, just it was dirty and yeah, but whatever. So when we were starting the tour, the tour guide actually told us to be aware of pickpockets. It's like, okay, okay then. So as we're walking through, taking this tour, some of the local people were like following behind us. So I was at the end of the group's line just watching for pickpockets and stuff. And we were like one of the last few stops. And she was on the sidewalk, and this was about the tour is probably about 8:30, quarter to 9 in the evening. So it was pitch black, okay? And she had stopped. She was on the sidewalk in front of a building that was a like kind of like a YMCA today kind of place. And she was there, and she was telling us about a victim who was found here, blah 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 blah. And I was away. I was about maybe 20 feet away, just watching the area, and where she had stopped was like I said, a street, and there was a cross street behind us, and I'm up on the sidewalk, watching the group, watching our tour guide talk about this area, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw somebody, a guy. He had like a brown jacket, either a leather jacket or material jacket, whatever, but it was a brown jacket. He was like right up against me, like literally like inches from behind me, as he's like right up behind me. And my first thought wasn't, oh, I wonder who this guy is. My first thought was, how the hell did he get behind me, sneak up behind me without me hearing him? That was my first thought. And my second thought was, okay, maybe he is a pickpocket and he's trying to pick my pocket. So, I just, you know, looked with my eyes. I didn't turn my head. I looked with my eyes and I still saw him behind me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to see who this guy is. So I turned around real fast. Nobody was there, people. Nobody. There was nobody behind me. I turned around and then like 1 second, just flipped around real fast. He couldn't have gone anyplace because right before I turned around to look behind me, I snuck a peek out the corner of my eye. He was still there. So I turned around real fast within a second of making sure he was behind me. Nobody there. All I saw was the brown jacket. I could not describe him to you, facial wise. I couldn't describe to you what he had on otherwise, but there was a brown jacket, and that was one of the things that I saw out of the corner of my eye was the brown jacket. So who was he? I have no idea. Was he a spirit? 99.99999% sure. There's always that possibility that he was not a spirit. But I think he was, because I turned around too quickly and he was gone. And there's no way that he could have gone any place in that 1 second that I turned around to try to just, confront him. So that was my Jack the Ripper experience that I had. So then the other experience that we had was in Paris. And Brenda says, oh, it could be just a coincidence, that this happened. But we were in a cemetery. Of course, we can't go no place without seeing a cemetery. But anyways, I'm going to log on to my laptop real fast, so give me a second. I want to make sure that I pronounce it right, so hold on. Okay. Uh, Growing up, my mom always told me, and she doesn't listen to this podcast, so it's okay me, telling you the story. My mom told me that we were, because her maiden name is Morrison. So mom always told me growing up that we were related to John Wayne, because his real name was Marion Morrison, and Jim Morrison of the Doors. So growing up, that was what I thought, and I told, oh yeah, I'm related to John Wayne. I'm related to Jim Morrison. Well, come to find out, like 4 or 5 years ago, it was a lie, a complete freaking lie. We were not related. So my half of my childhood, well, actually all of my childhood and growing up was a lie, because I thought we were related to Jim Morrison and John Wayne. Yeah, bummer. All right, so we went to Paris, and we were. It was the cemetery Père Lachaise. And I probably slaughtered that. I'm sorry if I did. But Jim Morrison is actually buried there, along with Chopin, and there was an Air France plane that crashed in the early 2000s. It was coming back from Argentina. Well, there's a monument there. There's a monument for the victims of Auschwitz. Oscar Wilde is there, buried there. So and the only requirements is that you have to have lived in Paris to be actually buried there. But this cemetery is so freaking big, they actually have street names on the freaking sidewalks, okay, to try to find who you're trying to find easier. So we did this whole front part of this graveyard, Père Lachaise, if I'm saying that right. And we're coming back towards the back, and this is where our encounter happened. There was more freaking cemetery behind this part. We had already covered this whole front of the cemetery for like at least an hour walking through this place. So there's this big monument back in the back, and there's a mausoleum. We went into the actual mausoleum. Well, me and our son did. Brenda and Jesse said, "No way." So we're walking back, and I'm thinking that, okay, this big ass monument back here is the end of the cemetery. Boy, was I wrong. As soon as you got up to that big ass monument, there's stairs that goes down to a lower level that has more tombstones, more mausoleums, and that's where Jim Morrison's grave is at. It took us a while to find it, because it's like a maze in there. And this place is like a freaking, it would be a good place, and I'm not like, disrespecting who's ever there, but it was like a horror movie. There was crows crowing like all through the back part of this graveyard, and it would be a perfect horror movie, man. You got crows craw craw craw, and you're in a cemetery. The leaves are rustling because it's windy. It was cool. So here's what happened. Okay, there's stairs going down to the lower level of the graveyard that's in the back there. So me and Brenda are walking down these stairs. Okay, there's two women walking up the stairs. Now, granted, you have to remember we're in Paris. They speak French. Okay, English is not the first language. So as we're going down the steps, there's two ladies coming up the opposite direction. And I have this on video. I did a live feed on Facebook, and I still have that video. And as we're passing on these stairs in perfect English, the ladies were talking about a male ghost in the cemetery that harasses, I think it was female visitors, or maybe just visitors in general. But what's the freaking odds? Okay, we're in a foreign country that don't speak English as their first language. We're passing each other at that exact time. What would have happened if we would have took an extra 20 seconds to look at someone else's, tombstone or someone else's monument, okay? Or if we were a minute early coming into the cemetery or a minute later, a minute being late going into this place, we wouldn't have met. But perfectly, as we're going down, they're coming up in English. They're talking, of course, they weren't talking to us, but they're talking among, themselves about a male ghost that harasses visitors. And I think it was visitors. I don't think it was female visitors, just visitors. What's the odds? Doing what we do, what's the odds of that happening? Like I said, Brenda says it's a coincidence. I'm not sure. Now, do I think that those two ladies were spirits? I honestly cannot confirm nor deny that they were. I don't know. I don't know if they were or not. But to me, it's just too much of a coincidence that at that exact time, that happened. So that was our interesting experience in the graveyard in Paris. Our last experience that we had on this trip was in Rome. And we didn't do the catacombs in London. I'm sorry, or actually they do have them in London or Paris. The catacombs in Paris are a lot bigger than the other ones are, but we did do the catacombs in Rome. And it was kind of like a surreal experience. It's like it, it was, I mean, you could not script this. Okay, we met. Of course, they have a visitor center, so they have to be haunted according to ghost hunters back in the day. It was that Steve guy, Steve Gonzalez, has all the freaking tattoos. They were in Lizzie Borden's house, did an investigation there. And of course, oh yeah, they have a gift shop, so it has to be haunted. So they're doing high fives, with the other people on the team, and whatever jerk. Yeah, yeah, whatever. Anyways, don't. I'm okay. Focus, focus. Okay, I'm focused. And we picked up our tour guide in the actual visitor center, and she she would she spoke English, but it was like like how here in America we don't pronounce the word like all the way through. Well, she did, and she like pronounced it perfectly, kind of thing, and it was kind of humorous. But she was trying. Give her props for trying. Well, and she shows, okay, well, we have a few rules. You can't take pictures, even though Kevin, and I'm sure he's not listening. He was from Canada with his wife Lynn. He did sneak some pictures in. You couldn't take video. Stay with the group because there's 5 levels of tombs or floors of tombs. So she goes, it could be easily have gotten lost, and you could easily get lost too. So, and as we left the actual visitor center, went down like maybe 5 or 6 stairs, and this is part of the surreal experience, dudes. It was a freaking church. It was a freaking church at the start of the catacombs, and had they were doing church services. They had the pews, they had the candles, they had Christ and the cross up in the front. There was actually parishioners, people that went to church, were there in the pews. There was priests putting down their robes in front of us. It's like, should we be here? Kind of thing. It's like, I don't feel comfortable, invading someone's freaking services. But so we did. It was like we were in the middle of this church. During church services, we're about ready to start. So anyways, we went to the left side of the pews, went down the first flight of stairs, and we only went through the first and second floors, and most of the tombs were empty because grave robbers, took them, over the years. And our tour guide said that the fourth and fifth floors, the things that were still left, bones, because basically just a hole in the wall, and they put the bodies in there. So all that was left of the people buried, all their valuables, they put on the fourth and fifth floors. And she said that people have got lost in there, not now, but back in the day, early. And there's still some graffiti from the 1700s that is still visible on the damn walls. It's just cool experience. Well, we had two experiences there. The first experience was as we're going down and we're on the first floor or first level, I guess. And there's a parallel aisle, aisleway, I guess would be aisle. Anyways, where you walk, there was a parallel floor, I guess, that went parallel to us. Well, as we're walking down this aisle or floor, whatever you want to call it, you could see. I saw out of the corner of my eye a nun, and I'm sure that she was a spirit, but she was a nun dressed in all black with a white, you know, hood on, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not, like I said before, I'm not religious. I don't know what that's called. And she was walking parallel, looking straight ahead, never looking to the right towards us. And she had rosary beads in her hands, and she's like keeping pace with us. And I thought that was kind of weird. And we had gone maybe 20, 25 feet in, and I looked to my left, and she was not there. She only came when we first started. Well, then the other thing that happened was we were on the next, so we had a tour guide, and there was this famous tomb. I think it was called the Black Crow or something like that, and you can still see the paintings on the wall. You know, in this hole where the actual bodies of these families would have been, and there was a believe it or not, there was a traffic jam in these catacombs. So we had to wait for the group in front of us to move the hell out of the way to continue. So we were, sitting there waiting, la 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 la, and Brenda was behind me with Kevin and Lynn, and I think our son, his girlfriend, and Jesse's boyfriend at the time was behind them too. So Jesse was in front of me, Brenda was behind me. And I saw this big ass orb come out of the wall. Because it wasn't like it was a flashlight because there was no flashlights down there. Or yeah. So this big orb came out of the wall directly in front of me, went in front of me, then went into to my right into the wall on the other side. So it was in three-dimensional space. It wasn't like a reflection. It came out of one wall right in front of me into the other wall. So that was experience two in the catacombs. And the other experience that we had was, again, we were waiting for the tour people in front of us to get the hell out of the way. This dude and this old man comes up to us. Okay, and you're supposed to stay with your group. And they came into our group, and we only had, oh crap, it was just us. So we had like 10 people, I think it was, maybe tops, maybe 12 people tops. It was just from the tour group was in this actual tour, and they didn't say nothing. They joined us. I looked at the tour guide, and the tour guide gave the look like I don't know what the hell that was. And I don't know if you just heard that. I'm picking up interference. What the hell? I'm hearing someone other voice in my headphones. That's how the hell can that happen? I don't know if you can hear it, but at this point, a little bit before, I'm plugged directly from the soundboard directly into my computer with headphones. Hear it again? Who the heck? Okay, I there's some weird shit been going on. Okay, and I don't know who this guy that's talking is. It's not me. Wait for it. He comes and goes. And I'm talking now. You hear him? How the hell can that be? Okay, okay. Sometimes you just don't question. So if you hear that voice, it's not me. I don't know who that is. So, anyways, I looked at. It's always interesting around here, isn't it? It's like there's never a dull moment in our household. I don't know who the hell that is. Okay, did it stop? No, he's talking again. Okay. Anyways, so we're there, and I looked at our tour guide, and she's like looking like, who the hell are these people? And I'm like, I don't know who the hell these people are. And they didn't say nothing. They didn't interact with anybody. They just stood there for like a minute, and then they walked away. And it's like, who the hell were these people? Were they alive? We don't know. Were they spirits? I don't know. I don't know who they were. It was like just really strange shit. So we finished our tour, and that's starting to irritate me because I'm talking, I'm hearing this interference, which should not be freaking happening on my in my headphones. Anyways, so focus, stay focused. So we left, and we came out of the catacombs on the other side of the church pews. So we went in on the left, came out on the right, and we went through the gift shop. She thanked us for coming, and we left. So that was the experience that we had in Europe on our trip. So, and as a side note, I put the pictures that fell last week up I jammed them up underneath the windowsill, so they should not fall again. And if they do, then I know is we have a spirit or two here saying, "Hey, I'm still here, buddy." So that hopefully has been fixed. We're still trying. I'm going to send out an email today to the Bath Police Department to do the investigation. We're looking at the end or mid May. We have some library presentations coming up. We have one in Romeo and one in Mount Clemens Public Library. We're working on a investigation in a business. We're looking at maybe going to Eloise on a private a ghost tour or ghost investigation. And we're looking at doing a library investigation in September. So we have things picking up. We're usually busy all the time. Like I said, we're going to New Mexico in May, and we're going to go see Billy the Kid's grave. And there's a couple of other graves that or graveyards that I want to hit. So I'll take pictures and hopefully some EVPs. Hopefully we'll pick up some paranormal stuff so I can talk about. So with that being said, that's this week's podcast. Thank you for listening. And as usual, until we meet again, and more importantly, stay away from the light. Oh, there's one other thing too. It's a side note. I did hear back from Podbean, who hosts my podcast, and there is a way to make a page to add the pictures that I have talked about, possibly add the EVPs that I have talked about. Um, but the instructions read like stereo instructions, so I'm going to have to take my time. So after probably not this week, this upcoming week, possibility, I hope they have some pages put up. I just have to figure out how to do it. Like I said, their instructions, as they tried, but they look like stereo instructions to me. So with that being said, and I don't know if I've already said this, but I'll say it again. More importantly, stay away from the light, and we'll see you again the next week. Bye bye.